Well, hello there, bookworms. Today I'm going to be giving you some behind the scenes that nobody has ever heard before, and I've not posted it anywhere before. So stay tuned for some awesome behind the scenes, and I'm going to be answering some questions that maybe has been on your mind. So stay tuned, and I'm going to be counting those down here. So today I'm going to be sharing with you Baron Weaver's Game of Bezique. This is my steampunk circus based in Paris largely, and it was part of a circus anthology, and I had so much fun with this baby here. It's actually a prequel, woohoo, a prequel to a series. So without further ado, I'm gonna dive into talking about Game of Bezique. So what is Game of Bezique, you're probably wondering. If you haven't bounced around my blog or website or seen me on my social media, you're probably wondering what the heck Game of Bezique is all about. Well, Game of Bezique is actually, as I said, it is a circus novella, and it actually follows Etienne Mercier, who is a fae in a time in Paris where fae are being hunted. Essentially, the fae are being hunted kind of like during the witch trials. And you'll find out more about the history of that inside of this novella. But basically, a man in Parliament, a fae, decided to kind of turn things on head. And he was a fae himself and basically ruined everything for fae kind, because he wanted to pay back humankind for all of their prejudice and everything. So he kind of ruined it for his own people. And so fae are actually kind of villainized during this period of time. And even the innocents that are not trying to rule the world, they're just being hunted because they're guilty by association. So if you practice magic, if you boast about being a fae, you're gonna be hunted, probably brutalized, and imprisoned during this time. So Etienne, during this time, is trying to survive, and he hides his ears, either by glamour or by, if he doesn't feel like using his magic, he just grows out his hair to cover his pointed ears. So he does what he can, and he cons people on the street. He plays card games, hence Bezique. If you guys didn't know, Bezique is a card game, and it's a fun card game. Look that up. I kind of talk about Bezique in there, but yeah, so Etienne is playing his card game in the streets, kind of conning people and not being so good, and he cons the wrong man, or the right man, depending on how you want to look at it. That man happens to be Baron Weaver, who owns the traveling circus, and he decides that he's gonna hunt down this boy that just stole his money. And as he's hunting him down to get his money back, he's able to witness how athletic Etienne is. And he just has this vision of Etienne in a circus, and he's like, you know what? I want this boy in my circus. And that's when things really start to take off. So that is all about Bezique, and I'm gonna answer some questions in a minute about why I chose to do some things, and why Paris, why are the fae hunted. I kind of got into that a little bit, but why did I choose to do that? And then also, where did Etienne come from? I'm going to be answering those questions in just a minute. So I'm going to answer the first question, which is why Paris? To me, Paris just seemed to fit the story. I wanted it to be steampunk. I knew that for sure, that I wanted it to be a steampunk circus. I wanted it to be something that was not so technical. Well, it is technical because it's steampunk, but I wanted it to not be modern technology and like illusions that we can cast with machines and everything, like cameras and all that. I knew I didn't want that. I knew I wanted it to be in a time where things were just harder in general for everybody. And kind of just like I don't know, just at a time where things weren't so modern. And that made it easier to adhere to some Victorian rules with their dress code. And because I wanted it to be steampunk, I love the Victorian era. I love the clothes. And I love that steampunk women can have either slacks or their bloomers, or they can have the dresses and corsets. And I just had so much wiggle room with the steampunk genre that I wanted to do Paris. I just did. I love it. Old school Paris. I was able to do some research and research some areas where the story actually takes place. And I actually used like real street names and real places. So that had like a heavy influence. But not only that, I love Cirque du Soleil, and like that inspired this heavily. And I was like, you know what? We're doing Paris. So that is why Paris, because also it is like the city of love. So, I had to. Etienne was always supposed to be a French guy, and that I had to go with Paris. Even if he gets transplanted everywhere else, which, hey, maybe he will, he's always supposed to be like that Pepe Le Pew type French guy, like, ooh la la, like, so that is why. For the second question, why did I want the Fae to be hunted, and why did I want them to be villainized and kind of persecuted during this time in the book? That is mostly because I wanted a driving force and a reason why Etienne was in the place that he was. Aside from just being a poor kid, I wanted to make him have a little bit more depth than just being a poor kid. In the streets of Paris, which you had your rich streets and then you had your slums just like anywhere else. But I really wanted him to have a driving force as to, I'm on the streets conning people right now. I could die any day because people are going to be angry. I'm going to be brutalized in the street just because I'm conning people. But I wanted a reason why he's conning people. He's poor, but why is he poor? He's poor because his parents died. Like his parents died. He's on the streets by himself. He doesn't have any family. And I just needed a driving force as to why. And why he's conning these people, and what drives him to join the circus. Why does he join the circus? And all of these questions were floating in my head, and I was like, it's because that Fae kind are being persecuted during these times, and they're being hunted essentially, so that is why. Lastly, what inspired Etienne? So Etienne is kind of a mishmash of the perfect man. He actually was inspired. I am such a huge comic nerd. I love my old school cartoons like X-Men and Spider-Man and all that. And I love the MCU. So I always loved Gambit, and Gambit's name is Etienne. And he was this con guy and everything. But more than that, it was kind of like inspired by a young Gambit, if you will. And I'm not saying like he's him to a T. He was inspired by that. And I love all kinds of con movies. Now You See Me, and I loved watching Brain Games and watching Apollo do all of his con games. And like, I loved White Collar with Matt Bomer. Like, I love anything that has con artists. And I knew that between White Collar and watching Apollo and also Gambit, it was just kind of like the perfect recipe for Etienne. And then also like, he was completely like my own thing too. He had inspirations for sure, but he really was just my my perfect Parisian recipe, and Fey recipe, I think. So that is where my beloved Etienne came from. Well, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you learned something. And if you have any more questions, drop them below. I'll be sure to answer. And hey, maybe I'll make another video and answer some of your questions. And if you're here watching this video during the Yash, hello and thank you. I hope you enjoyed this, and I certainly hope that you have a great Yash experience, and good luck with all those numbers.